What's up, everybody? We are back after a week off, and we're here with some more PGA DFS picks and lineup advice for DraftKings, FanDuel, best bets, everything you need for the Mexican Open. Welcome. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, and we keep these videos brief. Every Wednesday that there is a normal PGA event, we break down the betting markets, talk about some ownership, some weather, and what's important to build profitable lineups for this particular event. If you're not already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Just click that subscribe button below. Get notified when we go live. Upload any videos. Give us a thumbs up if you like the content, and let's get into it. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how well you typically handle it, weather doesn't appear to be an issue this week. As the last few events we've had, the last few individual events we've had, we've seen some weather have some impacts, delays, wind, big wave advantages. Not the case this week. There should be a little bit of wind since it is down there near the coast of Mexico, but really not going to impact how we build our lineups this week. Really, what's going to impact our lineups this week, let's talk about, as our golf writer Niramata pointed it out in our daily plug, the elephant in the room this week is Jon Rahm. So, your 2023 Masters winner came back and played the RBC Heritage, still finished T15 despite playing one over in round one. And everyone thought, he's fatigued, doesn't want to play, Masters hangover. Still, best player in the world finishes top 15 at that tournament. Now, obviously, if you've been playing PGA DFS this season, you know Rahm's dominance. Won the Genesis, won the American Express, won the Century Tournament of Champions, top 10 in basically every other event. Did get cut at the Players, and that's when he withdrew early, when he was low owned, of course. But now, we have to look at his projected ownership this week because it is very similar to this event last year, where it's Jon Rahm. You can include Tony Finau in this group, and then a massive drop-off in talent. Now, last year in this event, Rahm was roughly 50% owned in the largest GPPs, which is crazy. That's like some NBA off-the-bench value when the starter is out, right? 50% in a full-field PGA event. Now, 50%. Let's look at last year's contest. This is the pitch and putt from last year, and this was the winning lineup. So Jon Rahm was only 45% last year, but he was also only 11,300. You compare that to this year, he's all the way up at 12K. Makes sense. Field's still weak. He's been crushing it. His odds, if you look at, let's look at the daily plug, and you look at the highest or the biggest favorites to win this tournament. Rahm is plus 225 at our partner sportsbook. And again, I had to clarify here that that is not a typo. Plus 225 to win in an event of like 150 golfers is unbelievable, right? Which is why he's going to be so popular. Now, let's bring up the Occupy model. Rahm, unsurprisingly, ranks top of the model. And we have him projected right now 56% projected ownership. And I wouldn't be shocked that this approaches 60% in the largest GPPs on DraftKings. 50% on FanDuel. Now, if you get into the smaller GPPs, he could near 80%. And you get in the cash games, he should be, if you don't play him in cash games, you should probably quit DFS. That's just how it looks this week, right? So, Rahm, let's go back to last year's, 45%. He won the event last year, naturally, at 45% ownership, right? Scored 129 points. You had to have him. Now, whether it was stupid or not, I faded Rahm 100% in this tournament last year. And the worst possible outcome happened. Rahm won the event, scored 129. Now, you see here, I max entered this event last year, this contest. It was $3,000 to max enter. I still got back $1,870, which is not that bad, all things considered, right? Obviously, it's not winning. But when the worst possible outcome happens, you still get back $1,870. That maybe gives you a little confidence this year to say, if you're a high-risk player, if you're a game theory player, all right, the worst possible scenario happened last year, and Brian, who built 150 lineups and used 0% Jon Rahm, still got back almost 2/3 of his, let's say 40%, 60% of his 60% of his buy-ins. That's not that bad if that's the worst case scenario. Now, granted, I got some other parts of the player pool dramatically right, but the worst case scenario isn't necessarily $0 returned if Rahm wins. But on the flip side, and I've come around to this more this year. Let's go back to DraftKings. This year's event, you play Jon Rahm. Let's say he's 60% owned. Really, what your decision should come down to this week, if you're going to play Jon Rahm, this is probably the most important part of the video. If you're going to play Jon Rahm, whether it's in small field GPPs, which I still think you probably should have close to 100%, even in small field GPPs, but the largest contests on both sites. The answer and what it comes down to is, can you find players in the player pool that you really like that are both cheap and low owned? And low owned meaning 5% or less. If you look at last year's winner, they played Rahm, but they balanced it out. Three guys under 10%. Brandon Wu, 4.1%. Nate Lashley, 8.9%. David Lipsky, 4.7%. Even Smalley, 10%. Rahm was the only high-owned golfer on the list. Anguilla, whose name I may be pronouncing, but a great DFS player, had a huge week last year during this event. Same thing. 0.6% Grayson Murray, 2.3% Kurt Kitayama, also included Lipsky in his lineup. Also finished fourth. Again, had a massive week. 8.1% Davis Riley, 2.3% Kitayama, 3.5% Robert Garrigus, and 0.6% Grayson Murray. So if you're going to play Rahm, you have to balance it out with these types of golfers. And I think this week we'll have some. The betting markets haven't fully materialized. If you watch these videos every week, you know that we track the Sharp sports books to see which golfers' odds to win are improving at all of them. Unfortunately, so far, and I'm recording this video around 11 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday, the Sharp sportsbooks don't agree on any one golfer just yet. There are some golfers that are hit at multiple books, but not all of them. Now, we will update this. We will get some overlap golfers. I'll put them in the Discord server at Occupy Fantasy around 9 p.m. tonight. We will get some, I promise. So we'll look for those. If not, we'll still look at the pinnacle moves that Niramata puts in the Wednesday update of the Daily Plug. Let's go back to the Daily Plug really quick. You see here, if you're not familiar, the Daily Plug, first of all, if you're not familiar, Niramata's top plays, lineup construction tips, important characteristics you need for your golfers at this particular golf course. And then on Wednesday afternoon, he comes in, updates the betting market, maybe some additional thoughts. So you'll get some pinnacle thoughts and some pinnacle movers here. And you can look for low-owned golfers in that mix as well. The other way is to look at the Occupy model. Let's pull it up here. Ranks every golfer, FanDuel and DraftKings. Now, I'm going to use the filter to just, let's be generous here and say 10% projected ownership or less. And our projected ownership is normally spot on, so you can use this as a great tool to determine which low-owned golfers you can put in your lineup. And I'll talk about some golfers here that makes sense if you're going to play this Jon Rahm route. Now, Patrick Rodgers, 9,300. Actually, I want to show you one thing really quickly. Let's sort by DraftKings salary. And you see Rahm, if people aren't playing Rahm, or even if they are and they're playing some kind of crazy barbell, two elite golfers approach, Rahm 56% projected ownership on DraftKings. Tony Finau 27%. Wyndham Clark 29%, who we do like. And then Hojgaard 20%. And Benyon 25%. These are the golfers that people are playing in PGA DFS this week at the top end of the salary range. However, our model really likes a lot of the other guys. The betting markets are favoring. Some of the handicappers we follow are betting some of these guys. So if we filter it down to 10% or less, we get guys like Gary Woodland, who's the cover boy of the Daily Plug this week at 9% projected ownership. He's 9,600. Again, tough to fit in, but look at the line move already at our partner at Sportsbook. I'm curious to see where he ends up later today on the Sharp overlap plays. Maverick McNeely had some injuries this year. He's just 3% projected ownership. Patrick Rodgers, the second ranked golfer in our model this week, 8% projected ownership. Taylor Pendrith. I mean, you got to remember, this event, distance is rewarded favorably. So even if you haven't been playing that well, if you can hit the ball a long way here, it can really help you out and get you in the top 10 of the leaderboard. Pendrith, 2% projected ownership at 9,200. Let's sort by OF index here. Carl Yuan, 1%, 7K. Emiliano Grillo, 7%. I mean, look at all these guys that have a 70-plus OF index in our model. Analytically, they look great, all sub 10%. I'll point out a couple of names maybe a little further down that I like, that have stood out to me. Matty Schmid finished top 10 at the match play, not the match play, sorry, the team event at the Zurich Classic last week. Love to see some momentum from that coming into here. Brent Grant, 5% projected ownership. Cameron Champ, we know he hits it a long way. Finished top 10 at this event last year, had a little bit of a Sunday meltdown, but 2% projected ownership for a guy who could absolutely crush the ball. And the one that stands out to me the most, the guy I really like the most, I'm hoping he doesn't continue to get steamed. His ownership has moved up a little bit as we've updated it throughout the week, is Brandon Matthews. Now, even if you followed the Zurich Classic last week, you still probably didn't even realize that he finished in the top 10 with his partner, Sean O'Hare. After the round, his partner, Sean O'Hare, was just raving about Brandon Matthews' driving, his ball striking, and at a course that rewards distance, we should look to Brandon Matthews because on tour this season, Rory McIlroy ranks number 1 in driving distance. Number 2 is Brandon Matthews. Now, we've seen some line movement in his favor already. I mean, if at our partner sportsbook, when you have really big odds to win, like Matthews, who was opened at 350 to 1 at Sugar House, any type of bet, they're quick to move it. They already cut him in half from 350 to 175. So, again, I think he's got movement at one sharp sportsbook I've looked at so far today. Let's hope he gets some more movement. Either way, 5% projected ownership, 6,600, absolutely crushes the ball, coming off a top 10, hitting the ball really well. Brandon Matthews, one of my favorite sub 5%. Let's pray he stays under 5%. Now, to close out the video, let's say you're not playing Jon Rahm, who the other guys you're playing, then you can play a more balanced build, right? In that case, even if Rahm finishes top 5, as long as he doesn't win and score 129 like he did last year, Christ, if he doesn't do that, a balanced build could still win where he gets priced out. We've seen this before. So playing no golfer above 10K, playing some 9K, 8K, multiple guys in that range, or you could play multiple 8Ks and multiple 7Ks and have a really balanced build. That's a great approach. And in that case, you can take on more ownership because you're not playing the 60% owned Jon Rahm. So those are the two paths this week, and that's what you have to consider. And I'm probably not going to figure it out until later this evening when I have all the information at my disposal. So the two paths. One, let's go to DraftKings. You play Jon Rahm, and you play multiple, and I'm saying 2, potentially even 3 golfers that are sub 10%. And I think we'll have a decent amount this week. Your comfortability and your ability to find those guys and your confidence in us to find those guys is what is going to dictate if you play Rahm or not. Now, let's say you're not comfortable with those guys. Or let's say you start building lineups and you're like, or maybe you have another reason you don't like Jon Rahm this week, which I totally get. Start building more balance. You can use more ownership that way. You can play guys top of the model, in the betting market moves, in the daily plug. They have a little bit more ownership. You don't have to necessarily get in 2 to 3 sub 5% plays. In that scenario, you probably only need 1 in the largest contest. So, really interesting game theory week this week, but also I really think there's a big edge. And as shown by last year, if Rahm does what he's supposed to do, you probably need him to win GPPs. However, even if he does what he's supposed to do, you can still not zero and airball your entire entries, even if you fade him, as evidenced by my approach last year. So lots of ways you can take it. Really, it's up to you this week, and that really makes it one of the funner weeks in PGA DFS. So that'll do it for this video. If you have any questions, I'll be in our Discord server all day, occupyfantasy.com/Discord. Links in the description below. If you don't want to join, that's fine. You can always ask questions. We'd love to hear your comments. Let us know below. What are you going to do with Jon Rahm? Comment below on this video. Are you going to play Jon Rahm? Are you going to lock him? Are you going to fade him? I'm curious to hear what you think and what your plans are. So let me know. Comment on this video. We'd love to hear from as many of you as possible. If you're not subscribed already, if you like what you've seen, make sure you are subscribed to these videos. Click our subscribe button below. Get subscribed to the channel. Get notified when we upload them or go live every week. And lastly, we appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up. Helps others find this video. So Brian Jester for Occupy Fantasy. Thank you for listening. All the information and all the tools from Occupy Fantasy that you need are linked in the description. Make sure you check them periodically throughout the day. And again, the final update will come tonight in Discord around 9 p.m. So, Brian for Occupy Fantasy, thank you, and good luck at the Mexico Open.